It's another day and another news story. Welcome to Learn English with News. I'm Ben, your host, and today's news is about a guide who survived 6 days alone up Mount Everest. I'll also talk about when I nearly got stuck up a mountain. This is Learn English with News, a podcast for English learners where we focus on vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation and more, all while discussing an interesting news story. Welcome once again to Learn English with News. It's episode 100. Before we hear the story, let's take a look at the vocabulary. These are keywords we'll be using in today's news, which you might not know or you might not be sure about. So if you'd like to write the words down, get yourself a piece of paper and a pen if you can. We'll come back to all of these words at the end to look at what they mean and how I use them. So lots of great words today. Let's start with a few nouns. So the first word is slope. S-L-O-P-E. But what is a slope? Next, twist. T-W-I-S-T. A twist. And then another noun, frostbite. One word, F-R-O-S-T-B-I-T-E. Frostbite. Next we have a phrasal verb, to run out. To run out. And then we have a verb, chew, C-H-E-W, chew. And we finish with two phrases. Nothing short of something. Nothing short of something. And against all odds. Against all odds. Those are the key words. Listen carefully. See if you can hear them. See if you can understand them. We'll come back to them a bit later. And as I mentioned earlier, I'll also be sharing a story about when I nearly got stuck up a mountain in Croatia. And as it's episode 100, I have a present for you. You can read the transcript with the glossary and do a comprehension quiz for free on the Learn English with Ben fan club page. So both of those things are available right now if you visit patreon.com/Learn English with Ben. You can read along while you listen, and you can even try reading it out loud to yourself to practice your pronunciation. You will have another opportunity to listen to the news story at the end of the episode, but here for the first time is today's news. Imagine spending 6 days without food, a warm bed, or even a phone signal. One Nepali mountain guide had to do it on the slopes of the world's highest mountain. Dawa Sherpa, a 57-year-old guide, has spoken about his incredible survival story after being found alive on Mount Everest 6 days after he was last seen. Understandably, many people had believed he had died. In fact, his family in Kathmandu had already begun funeral rituals after being told that a rescue was unlikely. Then, in a remarkable twist, a cleanup team spotted him slowly making his way down the mountain towards base camp. Speaking from hospital in Kathmandu, where he is being treated for dehydration, frostbite and a broken bone, Dawa Sherpa explained what happened. He said, "As the oxygen ran out, I couldn't walk. I didn't eat anything for the first 2 days. Then I began chewing ice. It hurt my teeth. I chewed the ice hard." Later, he discovered some chocolates in his pocket and drank melted ice. He admitted, "I didn't think I would be alive. I thought I would perish this way." His ordeal became even more dramatic when he fell into a crevice, a deep crack in the ice. He remained trapped there for around 2.5 days. Then luck finally arrived. An avalanche pushed snow into the crevice, creating a way for him to climb out. After escaping, he found climbing ropes and slowly continued his descent, walking through the night despite another avalanche threatening his progress. Eventually, he reached an area near base camp where workers collecting rubbish spotted him and helped carry him to safety. The mountaineering community has described his survival as nothing short of a miracle. One expedition organizer called it a true self-rescue, saying Dawa Sherpa had survived against all odds. And his wife, who had already presumed the worst had happened, said, "When I saw him for the first time, I was so surprised. I was in huge tension after we were told that he would never return home. I can't believe how he came back alive. I couldn't believe my eyes about how he returned safely." And that's today's news story. Okay, so quite a miraculous self-rescue survival story there. And it just shows you that sometimes in life, luck is really, really important. A bit later, I'm going to share my own survival story, not quite as bad as the one you just heard, but I'll also show you how luck can sometimes play a big part in life. Before we take a look at my own story, let's look back at the key words that I gave you at the start. So did you hear them? Did you understand them? We had slope, twist, frostbite, to run out, chew, and then a couple of phrases, nothing short of, and against all odds. So let's begin with those nouns and slope. So the context. One Nepali mountain guide had to do it on the slopes of the world's highest mountain. So the slopes, a slope is the side of a hill or mountain that goes up or down. If you go skiing, you ski on the slopes. Okay, next we have the word twist. So people had been preparing for his funeral, and then, in a remarkable twist, he was found. A cleanup team spotted him, slowly making his way down the mountain. So a twist is a surprising change in a story or situation. Next, frostbite. He is being treated for dehydration, frostbite, and a broken bone. Frostbite is an injury caused by extreme cold, usually affecting fingers, toes, ears, or the nose. Next, run out. He said, "As the oxygen ran out, I couldn't walk." To run out means to have no more of something left. Next, chew. I began chewing ice. So to chew is to break food into smaller pieces with your teeth before swallowing it. Next, nothing short of. The mountaineering community has described his survival as nothing short of a miracle. So when we use this phrase, we're saying that something is completely or truly something. In this case, a miracle. It's usually something impressive. So it's a complete miracle. Nothing short of a miracle. And finally, against all odds. One expedition organizer called it a true self-rescue, saying Dawa Sherpa had survived against all odds. Against all odds means despite having very little chance of success. And those are the key words. Hopefully they are clear. Okay, so now you've heard all about this amazing survival story, this self-rescue, Dawa Sherpa. And one of the key points of this story, or key moments in this particular story, was that moment of luck when there was an avalanche. And usually an avalanche is a really bad thing, a dangerous thing. But in his case, as I explained in the news story, it pushed snow into the crevice where he was, which created a way for him to climb out. So a huge stroke of luck for him. And without that moment, I'm sure he would not have made it out alive. And I suppose it reminded me of something that happened to me, something much less dramatic. I certainly was not climbing Mount Everest, but I was climbing a mountain with my wife. And this was in Croatia in 2021. And I consider myself definitely not an expert climber, but I like hiking and I like climbing up mountains. But sometimes I underestimate the difficulty level of hikes. And that's basically what I did with this one. I found a review online which said it was medium difficulty. And I thought, well, I can do medium. I'm relatively fit. I can do this, no problem. And my wife too. So we went to the mountain. It's called Mount Mosor. It's near Split in Croatia. And, well, we took a bus there. And then we began climbing it. And there's all these useful markings, these little red circles, which help you find your way up and theoretically down. And so we made our way up. And as we were walking up, we bumped into this couple, Croatian couple, and we started talking to them. They didn't speak very good English, but we were able to communicate a little bit. They explained that he likes climbing a lot and he was taking her out on this particular hike. And that was it, really. We wished each other well and we went our separate ways. So we continued climbing up the mountain and we managed to reach the peak of this mountain. And we took photos. We had amazing views, spectacular views of the ocean to one side. And then on the other side, you could see in the distance Bosnia. So amazing views, spectacular. And we thought, well, we're doing well. Let's continue a bit more. There's another place to reach, another peak. So let's go on a bit further. So we decided to continue. However, this extra part was much, much more difficult than anything we had done previously. It really involved rock climbing, and we were just not prepared at all. I don't know anything about rock climbing. We don't have the equipment. But we sort of tried. We tried to make our way up and down these rocks, and it was scary, to be honest. So we thought, let's not continue. This is quite dangerous. There was no one else around, so yeah, we didn't want any sort of accident. We didn't want to have to phone the helicopter rescue or anything like that. So we decided to turn around. But just as we started to make our way back, a storm started. Thunder, lightning, rain. We could see it in the distance and it was coming closer and closer to us. And I was really scared. I was frightened. I thought, woof, we will be lucky to get away with this. There wasn't anywhere to shelter, so we just had to keep going and hope for the best. I also started to feel quite unwell. I didn't bring enough water with me, and we didn't have much food, so I was really concerned. However, I had a bit of a tuna sandwich in my bag and a little bit of water, and it just gave me enough energy and strength to keep going. The storm stopped, thankfully, and we continued. We started making our way down the mountain, but it was quite confusing. Remember earlier I mentioned those useful red markings, those red circles which tell you where to go. Well, the problem was that some of the markings took you up and some of them took you down, and it wasn't clear which ones were taking you up and which ones were taking you down. Sometimes you have to go a bit up in order to go down. So we kept going the wrong way. And I was in charge of finding our way back, so I felt so much pressure and I was getting really worried. And then it started to get dark. And when it starts getting dark whilst you're up a mountain, that is scary. So bad things started to cross my mind. Oh, maybe we're going to be stuck here tonight, overnight. Can you imagine that? And then, in the distance, not far away, we saw the couple that we had been chatting to earlier in the day. And we followed them because we knew that they knew where they were going. They were experienced. They knew how to get back down the mountain. And so we followed them down. And they had seen us too, and they were very kind. They waited for us a little bit just in case we were lost. So we made our way down finally and got to the bottom of the mountain. At this point, it was really, really dark and we had missed our bus back. So I asked very, very nicely if the couple could drive us back, not to Split, but to a bus station. And thankfully, they agreed to do that. And the really amazing thing about it was that they were not originally planning to stay so late. They had found this place near the bottom where you can get yourself a beer. So they'd already made their way more or less all the way down. And they had a beer. And then they had another beer. At which point they said, well, should we stay for another beer or should we go? And they decided, let's stay for one more. So they stayed for one more beer and then left the bar. Now, if they hadn't stayed for that extra beer, then we would not have seen them. And maybe we would have got stuck there and not found our way back. So it's very lucky that the guy decided to stay for another beer. He probably shouldn't have driven us back having had 3 beers, but I'm happy that he had that extra beer. And that's my story. So the moral of the story is be careful. Make sure you have the right equipment, you have enough food and water, and don't underestimate how difficult it can be to climb a mountain. Have you ever had a scary incident like this whilst out hiking? Okay, it's time to listen to the news story again to see if you understand it a bit better a second time. I'll be back soon with another episode of Learn English with News, but here is, once again, today's news story. Imagine spending 6 days without food, a warm bed, or even a phone signal. One Nepali mountain guide had to do it on the slopes of the world's highest mountain. Dawa Sherpa, a 57-year-old guide, has spoken about his incredible survival story after being found alive on Mount Everest 6 days after he was last seen. Understandably, many people had believed he had died. In fact, his family in Kathmandu had already begun funeral rituals after being told that a rescue was unlikely. Then, in a remarkable twist, a cleanup team spotted him slowly making his way down the mountain towards base camp. Speaking from hospital in Kathmandu, where he is being treated for dehydration, frostbite, and a broken bone, Dawa Sherpa explained what happened. He said, "As the oxygen ran out, I couldn't walk. I didn't eat anything for the first 2 days. Then I began chewing ice. It hurt my teeth. I chewed the ice hard." Later, he discovered some chocolates in his pocket and drank melted ice. He admitted, "I didn't think I would be alive. I thought I would perish this way." His ordeal became even more dramatic when he fell into a crevice, a deep crack in the ice. He remained trapped there for around 2.5 days. Then luck finally arrived. An avalanche pushed snow into the crevice, creating a way for him to climb out. After escaping, he found climbing ropes and slowly continued his descent, walking through the night despite another avalanche threatening his progress. Eventually, he reached an area near base camp where workers collecting rubbish spotted him and helped carry him to safety. The mountaineering community has described his survival as nothing short of a miracle. One expedition organizer called it a true self-rescue, saying Dawa Sherpa had survived against all odds. And his wife, who had already presumed the worst had happened, said, "When I saw him for the first time, I was so surprised. I was in huge tension after we were told that he would never return home. I can't believe how he came back alive. I couldn't believe my eyes about how he returned safely." And that's today's news story.